Okay, guys, we're still in chapter 4.3, and today we're factoring quadratics. So, quadratic is in this general form, okay, ax squared plus bx plus c, and we're specifically looking at the ones today where a is 1. That is, the coefficient of x squared is 1. So, let's look at the first one. We have factor each expression, so uh, the first one is x squared plus 4x plus 3. Okay, the approach is, like we have over here, find two numbers that add to b, which is the coefficient of x, and multiply to c, okay, which is the constant. So once we find those will be what's goes in our binomial. So our two binomials, that is, that we're factoring it in, will become the factors. So let's take a look at this first one. So specifically this time, we want numbers that add to 4. Okay, because that is our b. That's the coefficient of x in our quadratic. And so we want numbers that add to that and multiply to 3. Okay, because that is the c. That's the constant term. That's not multiplied by a variable at all. So the way we approach this is we just start writing down the pairs of factors of 3 until we find some that do add to 4. Well, 3 doesn't have a lot of pairs of factors, right? There's just 1 and 3. So hopefully that adds to 4, and it does. So we have numbers that multiply together to make 3. Okay, 1 and 3 multiply together to make 3, and they add to make 4. So that's our numbers. So we simply factor it like this into binomials. And we use the numbers that we came up with here, 1 and 3. So x plus 1 and x plus 3. And that's it. And of course we can check it really quick. So that's x squared. And then we have 3x. Then we have 1x. And then we have 3. So that's x squared plus 4x plus 3. So it does check. Okay? We'll erase all that. Get back to what we had. Okay, it's factored. Okay, so let's look at the next one. We're going to use the same method. We want to find two numbers that add to b, just right here, and multiply to c. So this time, in this case, we want the numbers to add to our b here, and this one is 5, and want them to multiply to, whoops, let's erase this. So add to 5 and multiply to negative 14, which is c, okay, in this quadratic. So there's more possibilities this time, right? And it's negative 14. We have to pay attention to the sign. B is negative 14. So we want things that multiply to make negative 14. And they need to add to make 5. So we'll write down pairs of factors, right? And if we can find a pair of factors that adds to 5, that's what we use. So let's see. One of the numbers has to be negative and one positive. So we use negative 14, 1. That multiplies to make negative 14, right? It does not add to make 5, so that's not it. Of course, if we use 1, positive 14 and negative 1, that's a different pair, right? They do multiply to make negative 14. They don't add to make 5. But if we think, okay, what else is there? There's 2 and 7, and that might work. So we want to use the negative 2 and the positive 7. If we did it the other way around, they would not add to make 5, but negative 2 plus 7 is 5, and negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. So we have our pair of numbers. So we simply use those to make the binomials. So we have x minus 2 and x plus 7. So that should be the factored form of this quadratic. And we can check it real quick. I won't write anything down except to say, x times x is x squared. We'll just write it down here. X times 7 is 7x. And then negative 2 times x, that's negative 2x. So we said 7x. And then subtract 2x, that gives us 5x. And then negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. So it does check. Okay, look at a couple more. So this next one, we want a pair of numbers that add to b, right? So this time that's negative 5. And they're going to multiply together the same pair of numbers that adds to negative 5. We need it to multiply to negative 24, right? Okay. Now this may be a little bit more challenging. Whoops. Kind of messed this up. It's hard to get this back when you get it shrunk. Sorry about that. There we go. There. Okay. There. All right, so they need to add together to make negative 5, and multiply to make 24. Negative 24. Okay. And again, we get that from they need to add to make this b, which is the coefficient of x, and subtract to make that. I mean multiply to make negative 24. Okay, so it's negative 24 they have to multiply to make, and they have to add to make negative 5. So one of the numbers that we're going to use will be negative, right? Because they have to multiply to make a negative number. So one will be negative, one will be positive. They have to add to make negative 5, so the bigger one will be negative. So you can think of all these kinds of considerations. So a negative number and a positive number that multiply to make negative 24. They're only different by 5, so 2 and 12 is too big of a difference. That's going to add together to make negative 10. But 6 and 4, that's not a big enough difference. So 4 times negative 6, that adds up to negative 2, not negative 5. They need to add to negative 5, and then we say, yeah, it's 3 and negative 8. Okay, those multiply to make negative 24, and they add to make negative 5. So that's our numbers, and that's it. We take x plus 3 and x minus 8. Okay, the 3 and the 8 that we got from over here, that's where they go. And we could quickly check this. We get x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 5. I'm sorry. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. 3 times x is positive 3x. And so you can see when you FOIL it out how it comes into play that those numbers add up to make negative 5. Because we're going to end up adding them when we get the middle term. You can take a quick look at that. X squared minus 8x plus 3x minus 24. And there it is. We ended up adding negative 8 plus 3 to get our middle term of negative 5x. Okay, so that's why the numbers have to add together to make that middle term, to make the b, that is negative 5. Okay, because you're going to end up combining them as like terms to get that term. So we've got just one more to look at. That's right here, number D, x squared there we go. X squared minus x minus 12. Okay, we want to factor that. And we'll use the same approach. We want numbers that add to make negative 1 this time. Okay, they add together to make negative 1 because negative 1 is our coefficient of x. And we want them to multiply to negative 12. Okay, because that is the C term. So we get a lot of possibilities for this one, right? A lot of things multiply to make negative 12. But we want the one that adds to make negative 1. So, okay, you think about it, we can get this pretty quick. One of the numbers will be negative, one will be positive, and they're only one different from each other, because when we take that negative one, which is going to be the larger one, plus the positive one, we only get negative 1. The negative one is just one larger as far as its absolute value than the positive one. So we think about it, and yeah, that's negative 4 and 3. So sometimes you don't have to try a lot of numbers. You can figure out pretty quickly sometimes which pair it is. Negative 4 and 3 add to make negative 1, right? And they multiply to make negative 12. So we've got it. And we just put those in there. X plus 3 and x minus 4. And I'll leave it to you to check these. To check this one, you can multiply it out. Make sure it works. I think it does. So that's the last example we're going to do. Tomorrow we'll be looking at ones that are harder. We'll see what we have to do when a is not 1. You know, in these, a is 1, and that's the method that we're using today. Only works when a is 1. So see you tomorrow.